All right, so this is part two. Uh, if you haven't checked out part one, yeah, check that out. But so many incredible stories, defining moments or crucible moments that really changed both of your lives as well as perspectives and thoughts. And I think that's what the NCP really does, I guess, uh, does promote. But there's also a lot of stories and experiences that I think you have to go through yourself. Uh, and one of them apparently is selling mattresses. So that's what Krishore's going to share us, and that's one of his defining moments. So did you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Krishore?
Yeah, no, it was interesting thinking about sharing this because after, I mean, if you watched part one, then you would know about Joslyn's story about how she created a crowdfunding campaign to help provide for surgery for a Lebanese person. And I have to say that my story is definitely on a very like miniature scale from that. This is a bit interesting. What happened was, I think like people, I know quite a few people who like, I mean, you yourself, Andrew, I know you have a background in real estate and you have a background in sales, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly like a very valuable skill to have. But as an engineering student, I never built that. And I meet friends who are like, oh yeah, I was selling stuff out of my like, what do you call it, garage in high school, or I would go to school and sell stuff. And I was like, man, I feel like you just need that raw sales experience because it's so valuable regardless of what it is you're doing, like that negotiation. So I was like, okay, mindset on, I'm gonna look for something while I'm in Taiwan. And it sort of appeared when so we all stay in dormitories, student dormitories, and what happens is every time they exchange, because the exchange students are only there for a semester, right? So whenever they leave, they actually just leave all the stuff they no longer need. So they have to buy all this stuff at the beginning of the semester to use for one semester. And then they just have to leave it outdoors because they might not have time to sell it because they're all just like rushing to leave and pack. And they just get, I don't know where they go, but like it doesn't end up anywhere back in the dormitories. So what people can do is they can walk out and you go around like a bit of shopping and you're like, oh yeah, I'll grab this thing, and oh yeah, I need a fan, and I need this. And I was like, but these items won't be around for when the next semester's exchange students come along. And so I was like, well, maybe there's something here, right? So I was thinking that I could just collect these mattresses. Like, it was mostly mattresses because for some reason the rooms in the dormitories, I don't know if it's the same in Beijing, Joslyn, but you have to buy your own mattress. Is that the same in Beijing?
I actually didn't live in a dormitory when I was in Beijing. I did a different route, but I guess I'll share the story after you finish the mattress story.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so people would rock up on the first day at the dormitories and be like, oh, I'm so keen to like have a good night's sleep. And they'd be like, oh, there's no mattress here. I had to go buy one myself. And then they would spend like a good chunk of money on like the thin mattresses which got cheaper. And then some people go to IKEA and get thicker mattresses. And it's just like a really big hassle, right? And it's expensive as well for a short-term investment. So I was like, okay, I could collect these mattresses, store in my room, and as well as any other useful appliances that I find. And maybe I could try to sell it to people at a much cheaper price next semester. And sort of like a win-win thing, right? And so that's kind of what happened. Like I just started posting, and it actually really helped my Chinese as well, because what happened was I would work with my Chinese friend and be like, okay, can you help me post on the secondhand, like the National Taiwan University secondhand sale Facebook page, and they would help me edit it. But then people would message me in Chinese asking me about like, oh, what size is it? What are the dimensions? How much do you think it's going to cost? And I was like, oh man. And then so it really forced me to try to negotiate with them back in Chinese. And so eventually, like, I mean, I didn't make that much money, but it was enough to like pay for like, I don't know, maybe a month of like treats or something, like just like daily eating expenses. And so yeah, it was just, I don't know, I think the lesson that I learned from that and why it's a defining moment was that it was really just like, if you look for it, the opportunity is always there to sort of like, if you're like, so I mean, I wasn't really desperate because there was NCP. I just wanted to have it as a learning experience. And though I just found that like, if you look hard enough and if you're motivated enough to want to do something, chances are you'll find a way to like support yourself almost. And I know, like, I don't know, like Joslyn probably has a lot of ways that she's gone about doing this, where like in a situation where, like you just find a way basically. If you're in a position where you need to earn money, or if you need to support yourself or your family. obviously that's not what I was doing, but it's just a little taste of what that might be like. So yeah.
That's a really good story, and it reminds me of that because in countries that are like developing, where families that they're not as doing well financially, I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurship, like really grassroots entrepreneurship, sort of come out of. They could be selling mattresses, or they could be selling a dish that they've been making for the last 10 years, and now they're just selling that in front of their house or as a food stall. No, that's really, it's really interesting, and it also shows NCPs are very resourceful as well. So I've heard of stories. I think I'm not sure if you met Jessie Nguyen. She was also in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And yeah, she just said that like you can, like, going on NCP, you just learn how to live out of your suitcase. And okay, everyone's just like yeah. So I'm sure that's true. Yeah, but a really interesting story, Krishore. Yeah. Are you intending to pursue a sales career now, or is that just like a one-off thing now?
No, it's more like I need to build my skills in this domain, but it's like, like I guess if you're trying to start a business, you need like a variety of baseline skills, and I felt like that was one of the things that would have been good to explore. So yeah, no, I don't think I'm pursuing a sales career, but it did help me learn. Like I always go away, but was that like, did I sell it for too cheap, or was that like, did that person, like, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I was like, could I have done that sale better? It's just constantly thinking about how you could have done better in that negotiation. So that was nice.
Well, yeah, definitely. Like it's not in the booklet, right? It's not in the NCP booklet that you'll be selling mattresses as a part-time gig.
Yeah. And it was valuable for learning language as well, so that was good.
100%. Yeah, I'm also happy to hear both of your insights or advice. That there's a lot of things that I guess the predetermined path of going in on internship, language training, in exchange for NCP, but was there a lot of things that you both didn't expect to happen? But obviously, everyone has to be very adaptable and resilient as one of the criteria. Was there anything that you didn't expect, and how did you get over those challenges? Joslyn, did you want to share first?
Yeah, sure. I think it comes down to like how everyone kind of goes into NCP rosy-eyed, I guess, in a way. And we're told once we get in that, like, it's going to be an amazing experience. We're going to learn a lot. It's like, it's one of those moments where that it's like a massive opportunity and you want to get the most out of it. But what I guess for me at least, like I didn't realize before going on was that it was going to be more challenging than I was expecting. And this also comes from the fact that like I was actually born in Hong Kong, and I moved to Australia when I was like a year and a half. So like pretty much like I grew up mostly in Australia until 10, moved back to Hong Kong for another 8 years, and then moved back to Australia again. So I thought like going on this NCP journey would be, I guess, slightly more smoother for me because of the fact that like I've had to adapt to different countries, learn different languages, and like going through that like that pathway. But NCP really did, I would say, throw me to the deep end. And the reason why I'm saying that was, I guess it comes back to the story about how Krishore was asking me, did you live in a dormitory or not? And I guess for me, I actually was sadly not allocated a dormitory when I first got to Beijing. Like dormitory spots are actually highly coveted at university. And I was unlucky. At the time at Peking University, I guess there was like 2 scholars. Like there was myself and then another scholar called Victor Zhang. A great guy. Like, we're really good friends as well.
Thumbs up to Victor.
Super nice guy. And the funny fact was like we actually had never met before we met in Beijing, but we were talking prior to that because we didn't know anyone else that was going to Peking. And we were like trying to sort out the admin stuff. So we wanted to have like a bit of rapport in that sense. Peking University had told us like, you have to like log in at this particular time. And then like, first come, first serve to like get a dormitory spot. And I didn't take it seriously. Like looking back, it was my fault. I wasn't expecting it to like run out so fast, and literally within the first 5 seconds, all the spots were gone. Like, not even joking. Victor, on the other hand, he was a lot more, I guess, like prepared. And in his own words, what he did was actually he sent so many timers. He had different computers in front of him, just ready to actually like just snap up those spots. And so he was really lucky. He got a dormitory spot, but I didn't. And that was basically the first step to like, you know, the whole NCP experience. Like, I arrived in Beijing, didn't have any accommodation secured. I was living in a hotel for like, I guess, a week, and like just house hunting in my third language, trying to find a place that was like, you know, close enough to uni, that was like within the budget. And it was like multiple factors. Luckily enough, like I ended up finding a place, but it was so far away. So like, I guess like that also was one thing why I guess like looking back, I'm glad I did it, because it gave me a local kind of like insight into how people in China live. And I was living in outside of the sixth ring. So basically, if people are familiar with Beijing, it's like kind of mapped out according to rings. So you've got like, you know, the center, and then like a ring outside shows like how close it is to the like, I guess, the central point of Beijing. And I lived outside of the sixth ring, which is super, super far away from everything. And it definitely made it, I guess, like there was a lot of commitment that came into like going out to like meet friends, or like, you know, going to uni and like stuff like that. But I really cherished that experience because like I think I've always lived by myself, like, you know, especially since after like I went back to Australia for uni. And to me, originally I was like, oh, this is going to just be like, you know, easy peasy, you know, just like the same thing as like, you know, when I like first moved back to Australia. But what I didn't account for was the cultural difference, and also like things that were quite unexpected. Like, for instance, you know, the apartment would suddenly just like not have electricity, or like the apartment would suddenly just not have water. And people would, I guess, small things. This is less cultural, but like lessons that I've learned, you know, and anyone who's coming to Beijing during winter time, the streets are not as well lit as like, for instance, in Australia or like in like developed countries. And so because of the fact that like Beijing is very dry, it doesn't snow much. But what it would do is that there would be a layer of ice that you can't actually see. And you almost certainly always slip on it. So like I've slipped multiple times, like just because of the fact that like I didn't know, like I've never lived in the cold like in my entire life. But it was just like all of these small things that basically like built up. And like on top of that, you know, we don't have tap water like in Australia anymore.
You can't drink from it directly.
Yeah, you can't drink from it directly. So it was something that I really did miss, I guess, like, you know, and I guess like, you know, Australia is great in that. The second thing was the pollution as well. Like I like, you know, even though I'd lived in Hong Kong, I don't think the pollution level was as serious as in Beijing. And it took some time getting used to the way of life in Beijing. Like, for instance, people always having a humidifier, always having a purifier. People always had the mask, which were like the N95s and like different things to like help with, you know, the pollution. And I think it really took some time to get used to it. And it's like, given the fact that I also didn't have any friends apart from like Victor, who, you know, I hadn't even met before coming to Beijing, and, you know, like one or two other scholars that were also in Beijing that I'd met in Canberra, but like only once. And so it was really like being thrown in the deep end. You had to make friends, and I was kind of like off campus, not in the dormitory. So, you know, couldn't really like hang out with like the expats that much either. And so it really forced me to go outside my comfort zone and meet people that were actually not from my uni. We're not within the university circle. And I think if I wouldn't say any advice, I don't think I'm wise enough to like, you know, give advice per se, but I think like knowing that like, you know, it's like, it's good to be prepared. Like, you know, going into any situation, it's good to like research and like, you know, ask other people, learn from other people, and like, you know, figure out what is needed to actually like, you know, maximize, I guess, your success in this like new environment. Also, always being okay with it not panning out, and not being hard on yourself, because I think that is where like a lot of people like will actually be challenged in doing, because everyone going to NCP, like, you know, most of us are quite ambitious. We all want to do well in terms of whether it's like academically or like, you know, career wise or like just social wise or like anything, right? Like and we want to be prepared. We want to do this well. We know this is a lifetime opportunity and we want to get the most out of it. But like when we put too much pressure on ourselves, like, you know, sometimes it actually might have the reverse effect. And I've met quite a lot of scholars like throughout the journey who a lot of us reflect back. We always say it's, you know, it's a great experience and everything. But we also definitely feel like mentally it was a very stressful experience. And it's like, you know, I think, you know, it definitely takes some time to like actually find your rhythm and like being able to like, you know, solve the issues in a foreign country. And, you know, we definitely have to give ourselves a pat on the back for like, you know, being able to like, you know, for sure, you know, in the future, like anyone who's done NCP, like, you know, it's not an easy experience, and it's definitely not something that like like any of us will look back and be like it was easy. But I think it's just like moving forward, you know, if I was to say anything to future, you know, applicants or like people that are about to, you know, post COVID, you know, embark on their NCP journey, is just to enjoy it and like just to have fun, and like don't stress too much on getting like too much, I guess, like achievements on your plate like throughout that time. Like as an example, actually, to talk about it, when I was at Beta, like at Peking University, I didn't really take units that I would say people would think would advance my career per se. I took really random units, which I absolutely loved. Like I was taking like Zen and Buddhism and Chinese. I was doing Arabic, actually. I learned Arabic and Chinese. And I was doing like, you know, African studies. Like I was doing like one unit was about ocean, so it was like about marine biology, so more on the environmental impacts. I was also doing units on like entrepreneurship. So it was like a range of different things that like I did. The commonality of it was that I was studying it in Chinese, and I knew, for instance, for me, it was actually a disadvantage because Mandarin is not my first language. I was studying with like, you know, local students, possibly won't be getting like the best mark compared to like everyone else. But I knew that like, you know what, like this is an experience that you can't get elsewhere. And it's like, I want to be able to learn things that outside of my field, outside of law, outside of like, you know, criminology, or outside of like, you know, just Chinese. And I'm glad I did it. I would say learning Arabic and Chinese was tougher than I ever expected. It was definitely like, I only did it for one semester. I didn't think I would survive the second semester, though definitely learning Arabic would be something that's on my list of like doing in the future as well. But I think just making the most of it and just enjoying what like you're given, and like, you know, making lemonade out of lemons, like, you know, as the classic saying goes. Yeah.
I definitely agree, and just hearing both of your stories, it's like being like having challenges thrown at both of you, but then just rolling with the punches and just moving on. I think definitely for me, I sometimes am a little bit too hard on myself as well, and trying to do as much as I can. And I guess that's also how I got the NCP. So I guess a double-edged sword, because
Yeah.
that's how it is. But I'll definitely take on that advice. And Joslyn, thanks for that. And Krishore, what about yourself? Did you have anything to add with that, or was there anything particularly that really stood out to you as a challenge, but you just really learned and overcame, and now you're taking that back with you back to Australia?
Yeah, I do have, I mean, I do actually echo a lot of what Jocelyn said, but actually the last thing that you said, Andrew, as well, about, it's sort of us having high expectations for ourselves that got us to have NCP in the first place, but it's not really sustainable in the long run, or at least I find for me, at least at this stage. And it's so interesting where it's like, it's just, I don't know, man, I still haven't figured it out, but finding that balance between the expectations you set for yourself and like what you end up achieving and whether you're too hard on yourself or, yeah, that's still something I'm trying to figure out. So I don't know if you guys have any advice for that, or I'm sure there's a lot of us who are experiencing it.
Did you have like was there like a plan when you were, let's say, in Bangalore? Was there like you were trying to do the internship, you're also doing language training at the same time, also volunteering during the night, or was that something that you were more aware of during that time?
During the time in Bangalore?
Oh yeah, and now?
Oh, just in oh, now. Okay.
And in Bangalore?
No, well, oh, I don't know actually. Oh, it's a bit. Maybe I might just backtrack and hopefully we can get to it. Like just in terms of what Jocelyn was saying earlier. Yeah, I do. Okay, so I was there for a year, right? So I had 2 semesters in Taiwan, and I found that in the first semester it was like, oh yeah, ambitious. I want to do as many subjects as I can. I mean, it's only a pass mark. I'm sure I'll be able to handle it. That was wrong. In Asia, subjects are much harder, and so yeah, don't have that assumption. And then I was just like, oh, I was mostly with international students. Like we're all just enjoying it. We're just like, okay, I'm struggling a lot with university, but I'm also spending a lot of time with international students. And I really lacked that cultural element. So I think for my second semester, I looked at that and I was like, okay, I don't want to do that again. I'm going to take fewer units this time to still at least meet that minimum requirement. It allowed me to do a part-time internship, and I was also able to then really make more local friends. And by then it was kind of like a chicken and egg problem, because my Chinese wasn't good in first semester, but it got better towards second semester. And I found that kind of helps you in your connections towards locals as well. It opens up more friendships in that sense. And so, yeah, definitely. I just want to like iterate on what Jocelyn said. Like I would love to prioritize that travel and that cultural experience more than the university itself, because that's not what you end up remembering once that stay in your memory once you leave that country. And being part of that as well, like I'm trying to make the most out of it. I think I know I struggle with decisions. Jocelyn knows about this very well. And so I think when you're overseas on NCP, there's literally too many things you could do. And you find yourself very time poor. You're just like, I want to go volunteer here. I want to go like do this internship. I want to go hang out with my friends. I want to go travel here. I also have to study, and I really enjoy the subject. And you're like, what? This is crazy. Like, where's you just find you're just so busy. Where's the actual enjoyment other than the moment to moment things that, like every now and then you're just exhausted from it. And it's exhausting. And to actually decide, like prioritize where it is. And I know, like, I know when Jocelyn, you were telling me, I think it really helps when you have all those decisions to have like and what I didn't have was like the core set of values that are driving you. And like, I know like Jocelyn, you have a few of that. And, if you had like 2 decisions, it can be quite clear sometimes about where your priorities might lie in terms of making that decision. And I just think that, it's definitely easier if you have those core set of values driving you, because then you can just go like, okay, is that aligned to it or not? Yes, no. And follow through with that. So I think that helps. And that would be sort of my insight towards juggling different things and, even managing expectations for yourself.
Yeah, I think definitely having values, I think coming like what you really value on the experience, but also what you sort of stand for as well. So because I guess going to Asia, it's obviously there's a lot of not a lot of crossover in terms of, I guess, also culture, but also expectations at work. So having your roots in your values would then really let you make the right decision in that moment. And I'm glad that that's really insightful, Krishore. Thanks for that, and I hope to really take that on as I go on my own scholarship.
Yeah. And it's cool to like take the time, because it's like, again, it's chicken and egg. Like you don't find your values unless you try out different things and you struggle with it initially. So it's like a whole learning journey. And I think it's just being easy on yourself and being like, okay, I'm still learning. I need to be selfish right now. And I need to discover more about myself before I can then like empower others, almost like to then, shift down that point.
Well, yeah. Did you want to add anything, Jocelyn? Or if not,
Oh, yeah.
no? Okay. Okay.
No, I was just gonna actually talk about, because I feel like one thing that Andrew kind of mentioned with Krishore's experience was like he actually did a lot of volunteering as well. And one of the first photos that Krishore kind of showed was him mentoring. I guess were they primary
Like,
school?
yeah, like primary school students. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I feel like that kind of adds to I guess like what I was thinking about in terms of the NCP experience, and what we're talking about, making decisions of what we're going to invest our time in, and given that we only have a short amount of time, like it's like apart from enjoying it, it's also thinking about like the impact that you're making, whether it's to yourself or like to other people. And I love how Krishore like gave time, like he could have done other things like go traveling or like try and like it's like at the end of the day, it's like, volunteering isn't something that we necessarily think of as, we're going to put this on our CV. It's going to like advance our career. It's not really that. Like at the end of the day, we're doing it because we want to like, help others, and we want to like, be able to like deliver some form of like good impact. And I don't know, like I guess like we could even talk about, a bit about the volunteering experience, because I feel like that's something that, people that are listening to this podcast would probably be quite interested in knowing, like what there is out there, why we chose to do them as well. So I don't know, maybe Krishore could start first, maybe.
Yeah, if that's okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, Jocelyn, thank you for pointing that out. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, so yeah, there definitely is that aspect of volunteering your time towards kids, because they don't know much about the outside world, honestly. And when you come in, and that's why it's like an amazing program that NTU has, National Taiwan University. They give you that opportunity, like as international students, to share your culture, and then the students in return share their culture to you. So it's a nice two-way learning experience. And on top of that, there's also the Australia-Taiwan Youth Association that myself and Kate, another Taiwan scholar, were leading while we were there. And it was Daniel and Abigail, who were the previous presidents, who passed it on to us. So it's sort of like an NCP pass the baton sort of a thing. And it was just amazing, because we would hold like fortnightly language exchanges, we would hold monthly social events. And that was like it was easy to say yes to that opportunity, because that was NCP. That was why we were there. We were there to like, okay, make the people to people connections. And so,
right on.
yeah. Yes, that's right. So it's literally, it was just very easy to say yes to that opportunity, because it was exactly why we were there. And the connections we made there, the impact we made on the people who were able to make those new friends and those relationships moving forward, was just really rewarding to see. And that's why that just kept us going. And we're like, we'd love to share the Aussie culture, and please share the Taiwanese culture back to us as well. And so that was nice.
It's just awesome to see all that enthusiasm and that passion just come out of Krishore. Yeah, it's really admirable just to hear that, Matt. And yeah, I'm sure those mentees will definitely remember everything you told them, taught them, and yeah, I'm sure if you have any plans to actually visit Taiwan in the future and visit those mentees as well?
Yeah, no, that'll be actually, yeah. So I don't have any plans yet, because like it's just I don't know when I'm going to go back to Taiwan. There's still a lot of the world that I want to travel and explore, but I've made a great bunch of local friends, and that's one of the great things about making local friends, is that you have someone to go back to when you go back to that country, right? Because if you make international friends, it's great actually. You have a lot of people around the world, though you're not really cemented in the place that you spend most of your time in. And so I'm still in contact with some of them. I know one of them actually came over for a working holiday. And like, she was staying at my house, and my mom was here, and we would cook, and like she would make dumplings for us. And it was cool. It was like, that two-way experience. So yeah, it's just, I think that's what really, that person that you're connected with in Taiwan, I think that's the stronger relationship past the diplomatic and political ties.
Yeah, definitely. And Jocelyn, what about, did you have any volunteering experiences you wanted to share as well?
Yeah, so I guess like for me, I'll choose, I think I want to focus on one particular volunteering experience that I actually, for the first year, I was like a volunteer, and then the second year I went back as a speaker. And it was actually part of a program that was run It was funded by the embassy, and it was in collaboration with the Educating Girls of Rural China, and Akia was kind of part of it as well. And so the first year when I did it, I was doing it representing actually NCP, and it was an experience that I didn't expect would, change how I was like I guess like change the lens of how I was viewing my NCP experience. And it was to the I guess like one defining moment during the volunteering was at the end of the whole program. One of the girls came up to me, and this is what she said. She said, "Thank you so much," in Chinese. She was like, "Thank you so much for being my window to this world." And it was very touching. Like it was like I didn't even think that was what I was doing at first, and like all I knew was like the girls that we were running this program for, they were coming from underprivileged backgrounds. A lot of them came from like Guilin, Gansu, and originally I was actually last year supposed to go to Gansu for a volunteering trip. So I was going to go there, live with the girls and like teach them English. But due to certain factors, like, that trip had to be cancelled. But I think it all kind of came down to like, when I was talking about the enjoyment and like the impact, it was like, for me, I've always been extremely passionate about education. And also more importantly about female empowerment, and EGRC and like the program that the embassy was funding. I thought it was like a great way to actually give back to the people that I feel like needed the most. And in this instance, like these girls have never left their country. Most of them, it was like the first time to Beijing, and giving them the confidence that they needed and realizing that there was a world beyond what they knew. And hearing their stories, which I felt like was the biggest part of it, because it made me realize how privileged I was to even be able to be there, and talking to these girls, like going through NCP, living in different countries throughout my life, and being afforded the opportunities that I had been given. And yeah, I definitely would recommend that if anyone is planning to do any volunteering, it's like it's important to align it with your own interest, align it with where you feel like you can give back the most, and it's like moving forward, I guess in the second year when I went back as a speaker, both years I actually did a very similar task, which was actually again focused on female empowerment. I ran a workshop, and it was focused more on I guess like what I would say it would be a lean in workshop with Chinese characteristics. So it's trying to actually take into account their own cultures, and also like their own experiences, but also lean in, I guess, is a more it's not really a foreign concept, because I guess like women in China have long been given opportunities to work alongside men, like especially during like Cultural Revolution, like all the different historical events. But I think it's like realizing that they're like more than what it's like the sky is not the limit. Sometimes it's like it's more about what you can dream, like inspiring to believe in themselves, to like realize that they can achieve so much more than what they're told. So yeah, I think so definitely embrace like the NCP experience, enjoy volunteering, and like remember the impact and like that you're creating for like the host country that you're in, and also while you're representing Australia and what those values kind of mean. Australia being a country that focuses on equality and fairness, what can we do as Australians abroad to represent Australia best?
I am very confident and happy that both of you were NCP scholars representing Australia, and just being amazing ambassadors in your own rights. And I feel like the podcast itself has like at the start it was like Joslyn's ICU story, and then we just like calmed down a little bit, and then Krishore's mattress story, we went up a bit, and then now we're just ending on a nice sort of volunteering and social impact message. I feel like that's going to be like everyone's NCP experience, there's going to be ups and downs. And I'm sure that, yeah, it shouldn't scare anyone listening to this if you are applying. Like, there's a lot of scary moments or a lot of moments that are unexpected, but obviously at the end, amazing experiences and insights that will be taken away. So yeah, I think on that note, I think I'll end it there. I really do appreciate both of your times, Joslyn and Krishore, hearing your stories, and hopefully everyone, maybe both of you will be able to meet again if you do go to China to see Joslyn, or coming back to Australia. Yeah. And yeah, I think, yeah, with that, thank you. I think we'll end it there.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.